Well, hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Cracking the Rich Code, the podcast. I'm your host, John Verico, and I have yet another very special guest with us today. And this one is a little bit unusual for our normal kind of person who's in the Cracking the Rich Code book. A lot of you who are in this series are coaches and speakers and that kind of stuff. But here comes somebody from a whole different perspective, a, a novelist who started rather late in life in this venture and has a really exciting story to tell. So let me bring on our special guest today, Diane Merrill Wigginton. There you are,
Hello.
Diane. How
Yeah,
are you?
I'm doing great.
It's always great when I have the opportunity to do this show because I get to meet and talk to folks from all different types of perspectives and different types of careers, but I have yet to interview a novelist. And so I was
Well,
really excited to see that you were on this show.
well, thank you. That is very nice to hear. I wasn't always a novelist. My first career, I was a registered dental assistant in San Diego. That's where I went to school. I did that for like 17 years. And then I met and married my current husband, David Wigginton. And we combined our families. He had three sons. I had a son and a daughter. And then we had one son together. So
Wow.
we combined our families, and I stayed home for a few years with the youngest. And then we moved from San Diego to Harold, California, which is a small rural area outside of Sacramento. And I started a daycare center on our 5.5 acre ranch, which was wild because we had goats and I had a beehive and I had an orchard and I had, just gardens. And it was an amazing time of life, raising
Wow.
our younger kids there. So,
And operating a daycare.
and running a daycare, I worked 11 hours a day, 5 days a week.
And how many kids did you have on the farm
Well, we
during a
had
typical daycare?
Well, I tended to have I was full. I had 8 kids.
Wow.
Um, yeah, plus my own. And but my kids were getting older at that point. So it was
So were
amazing.
they able to help you?
No, they did not enjoy.
I I saw that coming. I saw the look on your face as soon as I asked that question.
Yeah, no, their idea of helping is going out and playing on the swing set, and they would hang out with the little kids or, play in their room or do whatever. But it was great because, I had berry bushes, I had fruit trees. And so in the summer when everything was ripening, we would just go out there and pull grapes off the vines and just wash them out there and eat them as we were playing. It was amazing. It was
What
amazing.
what kind of orchard did you have?
Oh, I had 21 fruit trees. So I had pluets and apricots and plums and peaches and nectarines and apples and cherries. I mean, you name it, I had it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I want to come
And
visit your
then
farm.
I also had 3 walnut trees. So in the fall, we would collect the walnuts.
Wow. That's just
Yeah.
fantastic. What an exciting first two chapters of your life.
It was hectic and crazy and wonderful all at the same time.
Now I know that when you got to, I'm going to actually rephrase that because what you wrote about in Cracking the Rich Code in volume 20, by the way,
Yes.
um, is you called it my third act in life and how I cracked my own rich code. And so let's talk about your third act and when this happened and what brought what kind of brought this out in you.
Well, I had always wanted to be a writer. I had always wanted to be a published writer, not just write for myself,
That's
but yeah,
published writer is really important. I love that distinction.
yes. So, I knew people who had been frustrated authors, and they had written things, and they had, tried to get published, but they never succeeded. I wanted to go farther. I wanted to have something that lasts after after I'm gone. So that was my goal, to be a published writer. And I had to put all of that off because we were raised in our family, and I was working, like I said, 11 hours a day. I was busy. And then when work was over, I was still working because I had laundry, and I had, cooking and children and homework and all of that. So it had to wait because there were
You
more
know,
important things.
you said a magic word in there. You said you were busy. And I think that we all find that happening to ourselves in life. I've
Yeah.
realized in my later years in life too that busy actually is an acronym,
Mhm.
which stands for basically underserving yourself.
That's right. That's
And
right.
I think so many of us put off those things that we really desire to do. And we put it off and we put it off and we put it off. And then sometimes for some people, it winds up being too late. I always say it's never too late. And Diane, it looks like you kind of took this horse by the reins and jumped into it. So let's talk about kind of this transition.
Yeah. Well, as long as you're still breathing, it's not too late,
There you go. I
right?
love it.
As long as you're still breathing. So my catalyst came in 2011, and I was working, and my brother it was January of 2011. My brother suddenly got sick, and he was in a hospital. And he called and said, "I need to see you. I want you down here." My mother had already gone down. He says, "No, I need to say goodbye." And so I, dropped everything. I told the parents, it's an emergency, and I don't know how long I'll be gone. And so I drove all night after working a full day. I left at 6 o'clock at night from Sacramento and drove all the way down to San Diego. I think I got in around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, to my cousin's house. And I basically crawled into bed, slept a couple of hours, and then got up in the morning and went to the hospital. And my brother at that point was sitting up, talking. And we had just a beautiful conversation, and we talked. And, I just thought, I don't know what the emergency was. He looks fine. And the next day he was on oxygen, not really talking, in and out of consciousness. And by that Friday, the doctor came in and told us as a family, it's time to let him go. And so we said our goodbyes, and I stayed in the room when they took the tubes out, and I held his hand, and I was there for his last breath. And so that hit me hard because that was my only brother, my only sibling. I do have stepbrothers, a stepbrother and a stepsister, but I didn't grow up with them. I grew up in the same house with my brother, and that's all I knew. And
How,
so
how old was
that
your
hit me
brother?
hard. That was hard. It was just before his 49th birthday. It was a couple months before my 48th birthday. And so, I just was questioning everything, like, what's the meaning of life if it can be taken away so quickly? And then, I was starting to get over that. And then October of that same year, my father called me at the end of October to tell me he had cancer. He had stomach cancer, and it was in his pancreas. So
Oh
I knew
wow.
what that meant. So by early December, he was gone. So I lost, my brother and my father in the same year.
Mm.
And it took me a long time to get over that. I'd be driving down the road, and a song would come on, and all of a sudden I was spontaneous, start crying, just tears coming down
Because they hit the
and I
memories
just,
or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I'd have to pull
Oh,
over and get control. And so I don't know, it took me about a year and a half to try and understand what, why. And, the only thing that kept coming back to me was life is too short to not do what you want to do, not to fulfill your dreams. And so I said, well, that's it. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to see if I can write a novel. And I did. I wrote a novel in 6 months. And that novel was Angelina's Secret. And I said, okay, well, I wrote a novel. Now what do I do? What do I do with it?
Just out of curiosity, what was that about?
It was a grandioso love story with lots of adventure and swashbuckling fun. Just, quippy language. It was just, I don't know, it just came from my soul, I think. It just poured out of me like I was seeing a movie in my head and I had to get that out on paper. And so I've had people tell me that when they read that book, it was like watching a movie in their head. And I thought, then I did what I wanted to do. Anyway, I sent it to my girlfriend, who I've known since 3rd grade, right? She's always told me straight how things are. And so she's like, she read it in like 3 days. And she calls me up and she says, where's the next book? I said, what do you mean?
Ooh.
She said, no, you have to have another book after this. This adventure can't stop here. And I go, but I just wrote this one. What do I do with it? She goes, publish it. And so I set about publishing that book, and I got into the hands of some people that weren't very good. They didn't do what they said they would do. They didn't do a good job. And so I took it back. I took it back from them because I was in the middle of writing my second book, Isabella's Heart, which is a sequel to Angelina's Secret. And when I wrote that book, I was figuring out how I was going to publish it. And, people said, well, you send it in and you wait and see if you can get a publisher. Well, I'm like, that just sounds like a really long process. And it is, it can take up to 1.5 years for a publisher to accept your book, and then another, 6 months to 1 year to publish it. And so I said, right. I don't want to wait that long. And so I started my own publishing label called Jewel Dagger Publishing. And basically what I did was I published my own books under that label. I've had people call me, they want to publish my books, they want to, put their own label on it. I'm like, why would I do that? I have my own publishing label. Why would I give you that and the creative license of the cover and the interior and all the things that go along with publishing a book? And it is a long process because, once you get it edited, it could take 6 months to edit. And then you have somebody working on the interior. Well, once they do the interior, you have to revisit the editing because sometimes things get smushed together or, right. A sentence gets broke off into the next page and you're like, that's, you don't want that. So it's a lot of nuances to publishing a book, to getting it just so, and not having a bunch of errors in the book, because nothing drives me crazier than reading my own book and finding 10 misspellings or, words that were smushed together that don't make sense, or somebody
I know
cut
exactly
it off and forgot
as an editor when I'm reading a book, a novel or whatever, and I find a typo or some kind of an error, my brain just stops. The whole flow of the story stops. So I know exactly what you mean when you run across those things. And it's even more frustrating if it's your own work.
Yeah, it can drive me crazy. Like I've got another book, Isabella's Heart, where there's a mistake in there. And I'm like, oh man, that book's been out for a long time. That mistake is just glaring to me. So, eventually I will go back and fix that. But, I've been moving on, and I have 6 novels and 1 children's book that I have produced. I have also written another novel, and I'm working on a children's series right now. I'm on book 2 of the children's series, but I haven't edited anything or, because it's just so much. And so cracking the rich code out there is absolutely wonderful. I've redone Laura's story. It's got a new cover. It's absolutely gorgeous. Interiors they've been doing the interior right now. It's fresh, new, and re-edited, and I made some changes, things that I wanted to make before, but it was already out and I couldn't do it after it was out. So when you redo it, you might as well fix what what bothered you. So
there you go. There you go.
yeah.
So if you were to, and I know we don't like to pigeonhole ourselves, but if you were to say or describe your books, what genre or genres? Because it sounds like you're kind of in a bunch of different areas.
Genres. Okay.
Genres, yeah.
So I have it's romantic suspense, contemporary romance, suspense. I don't just like, throwing romance in there. I want some suspense in it. I want something thrilling. My latest book, The Magician Killer, is a thriller suspense. They also call it a FBI procedural. So that's starting to garner some attention. I've won 2 awards for that so far.
When I saw the title of that book, being an amateur magician myself, I said, "Oh, this is kind of scary. I can't wait to read it."
Yeah, it is kind of scary. It's kind of something I've never done before, but some people like it, some people don't. So, I've gotten a lot of 5-star reviews, and then, somebody comes in with a 1 or 2 star and they go, yeah, I tried to like the book, but I didn't like it at all. That throws the whole thing off when you have 45 to 50% of people really like it and they're 5 stars, and then somebody gives you a couple 4 stars, and then you've got a 1 star and you're like,
yeah, it just drops the whole rating. Right? Yeah. No, you can't. You can't.
Mm-mm. Nope.
So let me ask you, let's go back, because obviously the kinds of stuff that you normally write are not what is in the Cracking the Rich Code. So let's talk a little bit about how that shift came about and that opportunity came about for you.
Okay, so I received a message on LinkedIn from a lady I didn't really know, but apparently she knew me. And she said, you would be perfect for Cracking the Rich Code. And I said, what is that? And so she kind of explained. And then she, little explanation. I didn't really know what Cracking the Rich Code was, or I've never heard of it before. And then she put me in touch with Jim Britt. He and I sat down and had a conversation. And he said, you have a story there. You need to tell your story. And basically, I didn't grow up privileged. I didn't grow up rich. I didn't have, middle class, middle to lower class would be what I would describe my childhood. I spent a lot of summers with my grandparents that prevented my parents from having to pay for daycare. We would spend our summers with my grandparents, and those were magical times. On a farm in Idaho, all summer, going to the rodeo, thinking I could be a rodeo queen, riding barrels around my grandfather would set up the barrels out in the field, and I would just ride around like I was the rodeo queen. It was fabulous. It was the best time they were the best summers. Even when I think of summer now, that's what I think of, being with my grandparents. And so,
we always look at things when we hear about, rich lives, privileged lives, and we look back and we say, okay, we didn't have money, but that didn't mean we didn't have a rich life. And it sounds like you had a very rich life.
Oh yeah. What what I consider rich at this point in my life is family,
Yeah.
our children, our grandkids. We're getting ready to have our 12th grandchild. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so, my son, my youngest, calls constantly and he's just over the moon. He can't wait. He's excited. He's, as he says, prepared. I don't know if you're ever truly prepared for what really comes and the reality, but he is doing a great job, and he's been taking care of his wife, and in the best ways. And I'm really proud of my children because and my extended children. I don't have a distinction between his and mine. They're all ours.
Right.
Other people might say, okay, well, that's your stepson. Well, he's my son, you know.
Exactly.
He's
Yes.
he's been in my life 28 years. He's my son.
He's your
So
son.
um yeah, they're all, and the grandkids, oh my gosh, they're the best. That's the best part of being an adult and having children, is having grandkids, because they are just amazing.
And you get to relive those early years again, and you can give them back
Yes, yes.
when they wear you out.
They come here, I spoil them. I give painting lessons. We do whatever they'd like to do, as long as it's legal and it's not immoral. And we take them out to dinner, we take them out for treats, and then we take them home. And I don't have to deal with the eye rolls, or them doing things that I ask them to do. Sometimes they come to me, Grandma, what can I do? What can I help? Or how can I make $5? Here, push this vacuum around for me, and we'll pay you. But yeah,
I
it's
love it.
just,
So you said you give them painting lessons. You're a painter too?
oh yes, I like to paint. I, I find things online and I try to duplicate them. And I have artwork all over the house, and my husband's like, "What are you going to do with all this artwork?" And I'm like, "Just enjoy it. Just look at it.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it." You
Yeah,
know?
there's something about the creative process in the arts, no matter what art it is, whether it's writing or painting or drawing or sculpting, all of that stuff. There's something about that creative ability, or the act of creating something, that just is so therapeutic
Hmm.
for ourselves. My
Yep.
wife and I have started taking some of those local painting classes. They have the paint and sip where you're supposed to have some wine with it too. But then there are just regular classes. And we've started to amass this collection of paintings. And
Right.
yeah, they're all terrible. But still, we have these paintings, and we have two of each, right? Her version and my version of all these
Right.
paintings. And we're like, where are we going to put
And
them
they're
all?
totally
Doesn't
different. They're
matter.
absolutely
Oh, yeah,
different. It's the
absolutely.
same
We
thing, but they're absolutely different.
we just signed up for a Bob Ross painting class. We found a certified
Oh,
Bob Ross instructor and who
cool.
teaches the Bob Ross technique, and it was fabulous. So it was actually a little bit of a surprise for my wife for her birthday. It was her
Nice.
65th birthday. And so I said, here's your, as a gift, I found this Bob Ross instructor, and I got us signed up for a Bob Ross painting class. And she was just over the moon delighted
Oh, yeah.
about that. What she didn't know was that I arranged for all the other people in the class were our friends.
Mhm. Oh, that's cool.
So we
That's
had, so
really
when
cool.
she shows up, we show up for the painting class, and there's all of our friends there. It just really was, it kind of took it to another level, which was a lot of
That's
fun.
amazing.
But
Yeah,
here's a dozen of us in the room, and we're following this person's instruction, to the T. And there's no two
absolutely.
paintings even slightly alike.
Nope. Nope.
Just the interpretation of each person, or the way they use the brushstrokes and the knife and all that, it was just amazing. And so I think that's always giving people the opportunity for creative expression is probably the best gift you can give them. And so I love the fact that you're teaching your grandkids the art. of painting and all that kind of stuff, because it's just a wonderful way to create a well-rounded human.
Oh yeah, that and cooking. I teach them cooking.
Ah, there
Um,
we go. You're a woman
yes,
after my own heart.
yeah. Like I have one grandson, and he really likes to help out in the kitchen, and he likes cooking. And so, if he wants to do something in the kitchen with me, I will figure out something for us to do. And so, it's just those memories that you make, and that's, you know, I'm the creative type. I'm very much the creative type. You put me down in front of a bunch of numbers to figure out taxes, and I will like go,
Yeah,
eat it.
I know that feeling.
Okay. That I don't like. My husband, my husband's a wizard at it. He is, I mean, he can pull money out of, I don't know, out of thin air. He's always been able to do that to me. And, I would think, oh, we're broke. How are we going to do Christmas? And he'll go, here, babe, here's some money. We're going shopping. And he'll throw down a wad of cash on the table and go, we're flush. We're good. And so it's just, he has that ability
I
to
need to learn
plan
that
ahead.
skill.
I know. My husband wishes I could learn that skill too, instead of just spending it all. But we all have our talents, right? And my talent
Absolutely.
is being creative, photography, um, painting, writing, cooking. I can take a recipe and flip it on its end. And he's like, oh, that's amazing, because I will take somebody else's recipe and just tweak it
Mm-hmm.
and make it better as far as he's concerned. And
All
so,
right. What time? What
yeah.
time's dinner? I need to come out there.
Oh, yes. Well, 6 o'clock is the usual time. So I'll see you then.
Oh, sounds great. Diane, this has been a fantastic conversation. And I warned you at the beginning, before we even got on, that this conversations go really, really fast. And look how
Yes.
quickly the time is almost up. I am looking forward to reading your chapter in Cracking the Rich Code, Volume 20, which as of this recording is not yet on the street. And I'm looking forward to that coming out. Uh, Folks, if you have not been paying attention to this conversation, go back and play this from the beginning and listen to all this wonderful stuff that Diane has talked about. If anybody understands having a rich life and bringing richness to life, it is Diane Merrill Wigginton. So check out her chapter in Volume 20. The chapter is called My Third Act in Life and How I Cracked My Own Rich Code. And visit her website, because that's where you can find out information about her and all of her books. And that is Diane Merrill Wigginton.com. And so visit that website and reach out and connect with Diane. She would love to hear from you. Best way to reach her is on LinkedIn. And her LinkedIn is here as well on the screen, and it will be in the show notes, so that you can get all this information. Diane, if you were to give one piece of advice out there for anyone who is getting to a stage in life where they've been doing for others and doing everything else, being too busy in life to focus on their own dreams and their own desires, what advice would you give them?
I'd say as long as you are still breathing, there's still time to create that space for yourself and create what it is you've been dreaming about all these years. So always remember to go for it.
I love it. I love it. And especially in the ways that you're doing it, where you're sharing your art and sharing your heart. And so thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show today and for doing everything that you're doing. And I can't wait to read your chapter. And I'm going to be checking out the Magician Killer.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. And thank you
You too.
again for your time. And folks, like I said, check out this episode from the beginning. And also keep your eyes open for the next episode of Cracking the Rich Code, the podcast. It's been a wonderful time.